are going. So I wanted to talk today about the baits we used yesterday, the shootout we had yesterday, between these two reels and the bait we brought back out of retirement, risen from the dead, so to speak. They no longer make it. You guys know what that one is. The bait right under it that we hate. We love to hate it. So we'll talk about that. And for those of you that are like, this guy just beats around the bush and doesn't get to the point, it's mainly on the pew pew videos I put out. We don't want you around here anyway. So anyway, those of you that do enjoy the content and the channel, please don't forget to hit the like button before you get out of here, and share this. Maybe not this video. This video we just kind of go in depth talking about different stuff. It's informative, but it's not as entertaining, in my opinion, as the actual fishing videos we put out. So please, any of those favorite fishing videos, share those to your other platforms. Don't forget, Bass and Bonsai. Do we want them to put cane sugar back in our Diet Coke? No, it was never in Diet Coke. It's aspartame, and it'll kill you, but I've been drinking it for probably closer to 20 years now, and I'm still doing fine. So I don't know how much. Some people just are more sensitive to chemicals, and it will take you away faster. So you kind of need to know what you can and can't handle, and if you can't handle this, you probably should stay off the, out with the big dogs, stay on the porch. But anyway, I got to make me a drink because I'm thirsty, and I know it's Sunday, but if Ben at the Hookup Tackle can drink that Japanese beer on a Sunday, I can surely make me a Fireball. For those of you that don't know, I'll give you the quick ingredients, and then we're going to talk about these baits. You got to have ice. You got to have typically a red Solo cup, but I found that I'm a lot harder on stuff. Something about the red plastic, I destroy them quicker. These clear cups they just last longer, right? If you guys want your beverages to not blow apart on you, ditch the red Solo cups and go with the clear ones. Then you can see what's going on. If there's a fly, if he's floating, you can see him in a red Solo cup. If he makes it down to the bottom, you won't be able to see him, and you'll just end up having a lot of protein you didn't really want. So I know I talk about a lot of stuff on this channel, but we're going to talk about a bait, and you guys need to hear this because Jacob Wheeler doesn't want you to know this, but I want you guys to know this. So hang on, you got to do the mixture. You guys know the deal? Let me see if I can get it over here. You got to pour this as it's going. Yeah. Tom Cruise from Cocktail taught me this one. Oh, I just spilt some. Oh, that bait's going to get hit next time we go out. I just spilt some on it. That bait's going to take off. So anyway, I know some of you guys enjoy this craziness that I create here, and some of you guys absolutely hate it, but that's good. So I want to talk about this first, and then we'll get to the baits, because I don't know how much of the footage you'll see. I threw this reel, and then I switched this reel onto the same rod. It was a Poison Adrena. This rod right here. For those of you that don't know, it's like, what's Poison Adrena, Charlie? If this is the first time watching the channel, you don't know about Shimano and Poison Adrena with Jackal and all that. But it's upside down. Read upside down. It is the 611 Medium Plus. This is almost a medium heavy. It's kind of it's a very good all-around rod, but this is the rod we use, 6'11", and I've been throwing the Zillion on it, and so I left it on. We put this Chatterbait right here, rigged up just like this, and I was casting it as far as I could. I was just hard casting. So I had switched, and this was on number 5, and I could tell I was restricting. It was pretty windy yesterday, so I was throwing it in the wind. So I put it back to 4 and threw it, and man, the Zillion, I've said it once and I'll say it a million times. I've said it a million times. I'll say it a million more. This Zillion will cast as far as any reel that you put it up against. In my hands, me casting. This reel cast. So I wanted to see if the tatula would compare to it. So I went down to 4, didn't even try to go to 3, and we were casting kind of diagonal with the wind. We weren't throwing into the wind, but we weren't really throwing. The wind wasn't really helping us. If anything, it was hindering. It was making it kind of, in my, I figured it was actually hindering the distance a touch, the angle I was casting. I was standing on the dock, throwing towards another floating dock so I could roughly guesstimate the distance when I cast the other one. So the zillion, no problem. Got, I felt like it was about as far as you could probably get that bait to go. If I'd have went to 3, it probably started fluffing. So this one was already set on 4. So when I switched them, I did about 3 or 4 casts with this one. I switched this one over, and this one was also for the day had been set, and I guess I should show you that. So you see there, I moved it to 3. It was also set on 4 though. So it was on 4, this was on 5, and now it should still be on 4. So I put it back to 4, and it wasn't fluffing, it was casting, and it was flinging it. This one on 4 wasn't fluffing, it was casting it, but guess what? It definitely, you can tell that the tatula does not go as far as the zillion. It does not have that distance in it. I put it back down to 3, and I'll be honest, this on 4 still outcast this on 3, and this one was starting to lightly fluff. So you can't really expect the higher end. This is like that top notch. It's in all honesty, I think it casts better than my Steez reels, really, or it's right there with them. Like I can't get one to outdo the other. So I just I love the casting of this reel, but I'd also love the casting of this reel. This reel is the same as this one because I'll be honest, when I'm out there zinging these, I don't put everything I've got into a chatterbait. I will sometimes on a rattle trap, but the rattle traps literally fly so far that you can outcast your hook setting ability, if that makes sense, to where you're more likely to lose those fish if you cast that far and it hits the water, which sometimes happens with the rattle traps and sometimes it can actually happen sometimes with any bait if you're anywhere close to the bank in shallower water, or you're throwing to, fish that are schooling, or any sort of topwater bite that's going on. So sometimes that extra distance that everybody that wants to put out, cast testing videos, they primarily are shooting for distance only, and that I don't really go by that. I go by the ease of cast and overall distance. Like some reels just suck; they don't cast very far. They're just too hard to try to get the normal daily distance you're looking for. You don't really, most of the modern stuff nowadays, like even the Shimano's, I've never met a Shimano reel that wouldn't cast far enough of the newer ones. Like some of the older Shimano's, honestly, in my opinion, the older Bantams and some of the Chronarchs, they were not that great at casting distance. But all the newer ones, the Bantam I've had, can't remember all of the names of them now. Some of the cores I've owned over the years. If you guys remember those, they're basically like an Aldebaran, and the Aldebarans I've owned, but they were like an Aldebaran, but they came here and they were like a silvery with some red accents maybe. But like all your newer stuff casts good. This tatula, and I wanted to show you also, this reel, I don't fill all the way up. The zillion spool, I don't fill it all the way up because it is the 8.5 to 1. It does two things. A lighter spool, it may not be a huge deal with braid, but I feel it'll let me cast a little bit lighter baits a little easier if you've got less rotating mass, and just a shallower spool kind of slows this reel down just a touch overall from the beginning of the when the retrieve to the end of the retrieve. It's not got as much inches per turn, and with 8.5 to 1 typically you don't, you can do that. I tried that with this reel, I think it was. So the same thing with these, the tatulas, I've got 2 of them now. I don't fill those all the way up because you have so much, even though this is 20-pound braid, even with 20-pound braid, like it's way more than you'll ever use. So I leave them a little shallow. And the 8.1, that's almost perfect. Like I like the retrieve on this. And so it literally probably puts it closer to a very high 7 or an 8 even kind of deal just by slowing it down. And it's not much. It may not even make much of a difference at all. But when I did it to the 6.3 to 1, this reel just literally, I cannot deal with 6.3 to 1 anymore. I don't know, some of you guys that still use that, I went out in another video and tried that, so no. I do some of the mid 7s at 7.5 or higher to the 8.5 or lower, like in between that 7.5 to 8.5. I like all of those reels. That's the speed. In any bait I throw, I don't like the slower reels. So since I'm sitting here looking at my hands, like, man, my hands are all jacked. I will talk about that real quick. I made some of these, and if you're making any of these, you got to be careful because I didn't do it with here. I don't even know how I did this one. I jacked myself up there. I burnt myself melting some of these soft plastics back together the other day on a blister that's going away. But this right here, that doesn't look like anything. But I'm telling you right now, when I was switching these reels around, not this one. This one's been in just enough. I still don't know exactly how I did it, but I managed in trying to take the poison adrenaline was tight, and somehow when I was trying to take this off of the reel seat, I managed to stick that thing all the way up. I mean, it was buried, like stuck. I turned it real hard and it went and was all the way in. I know I should get a tetanus shot, but no, we'll live. But you talk about getting stuck with a very thick needle that was blunt force trauma. That thing, I didn't scream, I didn't cry, but man, on the inside, I was doing a little bit of both. So, all right, if you have any questions about the tatula or the zillion, this is one of those reels you guys might want to be keeping out because this does not have a very great finish. But here's the thing, they're popping up all over eBay now with roughed up finish, but you could literally sand this down yourself and just throw on some sort of paint if you're that kind of mechanical person that can tear one apart anyway. You can also, just like a couple of you are always trying to get me to, send my reels off to have them Cerakote or whatever, you can kind of have that stuff done. These are popping up all over eBay for like 180 bucks. So I would be on the lookout if you're like, I don't want to spend a ton of money, but if you're wanting to spend, or you could just get it and fish it, because I'll be honest, these things will look rough and they're not beat up. They're just, you start moving one of these around, that I've actually taken care of this one and it's already got scuffs, and just from me and my hands have jacked it up. But if you see ones coming from Japan that are like dinged up and scratched up, I'm telling you, it's probably just from them toss them around on their boat on the carpet, and it just will destroy the paint. The reel's perfectly fine. Like this reel I've had going on, was it 3? Whenever it first came out, this one I bought 2. I sold one to Matt. He still has his, but I've yet to completely tear this down and like re-clean everything. I think one of the times I had it apart, I think I did because one of these I did put bearings up here. They do not come with the bearings up in the deal. So one of them I put bearings in, the other one it just came right out. I'm like, I can't even tell the difference. So I didn't even mess with that one. I don't even remember which one Matt has. I'm pretty sure I would have sold him the one that I didn't put the bearings in, but I don't even remember now. But yeah, it's still, everything's perfectly fine. Have not serviced it. It just goes. It's totally been dunked underwater once for sure. Almost every one of my reels has at some point in time. It's definitely been set out in the rain. They're just, it's held up awesome. So if you can get a deal on one, I can't really justify getting a tatula over the zillion unless you're going to buy brand new ones. And you're going to pay $350 for this, or actually now these are more now. Are these back up to are they $379 or $400? Like what they want now for one of these, that's where I'm kind of like, if you're leery and you still want a warranty and you want brand new, I would honestly go with the tatula. You might not get quite that distance, but honestly, the 2 I have, the smoothness. And I added the drag clicker, so that's something you would want to do from AliExpress. Get you a drag clicker. But the drag, like everything, I feel you're not really missing out. Now going from this to a Steez, yes, but you're talking $200 to whatever the new Steezes are, like outrageously priced. But it's really a toss-up. If this had a better finish, this reel palms a little better, and I feel has a finish that, even though it maybe won't hold up much longer than this, it'll hold up longer, and when it does get a little scratch or something, it won't show up as much. Like this is more of a workhorse, just throw it around and do whatever. This reel with that crazy finish that will not take to that kind of workhorse mentality, and even taking it easy, you will start to show wear on that finish. And it doesn't palm quite as comfortably, in my opinion, as that one. I kind of have to still go with this one as my favorite now, as far as those affordable reels. I know this one, but you can't beat the, like this one is a zinger. This one flings those baits. I've said that from the get-go, from the very first time I got it, and it's very smooth. Any of them you see now with that hyperdrive technology, it's all the way from, I think the cheaper tatula. I don't know if all of them now. Maybe the new X has it too, but those ones with the hyperdrive, there's just a little extra there in that smoothness of the gearing. They're just the way that their gear design, and then how they've got the bearings things right. Just because you put super hard gears in a reel means nothing if when you're cranking the reel kind of can flex, and just over time you'll get a geary sound, which we've got in our lose, right, for you losers. They're still good reels, but they're just not quite on par with what these the Daiwas with the hyperdrive, or those Shimano's with their Digi, whatever all that stuff is that they have. So yeah. So enough about reels. Let's go to the baits. Let's go, where the rubber meets the road, where the baits meet the water, and the fish lips meet the hard baits and the soft baits. We'll talk about what I used and what I didn't catch them on, and the conditions kind of deal. But it was hot yesterday. We kind of had storms that blown through the night before. I left the house at like 4:45, 5 a.m. It felt nasty as I walked out the door. It had rained. It like felt like you were walking into a sauna. Like it just had that feel. I'm like, oh God, it already doesn't feel great out here. It wasn't hot, per se, but it just had that feeling to it. Now, once I got on the water, we started fishing and filming right around 6. It felt comfortable. It was definitely comfortable and no issues, but it never really got to that like, oh, this feels awesome, kind of feel. It was just that hot and sticky of a day. So as we progressed, every time the sun finally popped out, and when the sun popped out, we were on a topwater bite I'll talk about. That bite just went away. It got overcast again, and even rained for like almost a downpour for like 10 minutes, and then just went away, and it never rained again while we were out. But from that first sun popping out, the bite overall, like everything except one bait we're going to talk about, this guy, kind of went away. It was hard to get him to hit. And it felt, the sun would come out, and if you were at any spot where the wind wasn't hitting you, you could like even see it on camera on my arms, would just instantly like, you got sticky and you started like sweating. It was that kind of humid, nasty day. But in that first morning, and I'm going to talk about the 2 baits that worked, and then if you want to take the time and go watch me go through the baits that sucked. And actually this didn't work, but the other ones did. And I didn't throw it as long. Oh my gosh. So let's talk about what worked in that morning bite. And I'm going to talk about why I've got 2 different white ones out here. So I'm kind of giving a push that the old school buzzbait is back, in my opinion. There was a time when a lot of guys just went away from buzzbaits, or everybody's throwing those toady ones or whatever. I cannot tell you that the googan bait is the one to get, though, because this bait, it does get bit, but man, it's got issues. Just go look at Tackle Warehouse on the comments under it, and you'll see people talking about this bait. But it does get hit, and I've got a bunch of them. So once again, the 1/2 ounce in the bluegill color was probably the best one, and for whatever reason, the gold blades just have a squeakier squeak out on the water than your traditional silver blades. Now, one of these, I don't remember which one's which. One of these we were throwing more than the other one, and it was picking up the squeak. It was getting pretty squeaky. But these 2 colors were getting bit somewhat. Bluegill, which has been all season long for us, the better of the 2, but this one started. The brief time I threw this one, I never even got a hit on that, and that was 2 years ago, the color that I felt way more confident in. Now, the reason I switched, because after, I think it was this one, after a big fish, and I didn't notice it after the big fish, but then after a little fish, this one just lost its ability to go right. And I think it spread out here, but I'm scared to bend it back, because these, I've already broke one of these, and whenever we first started fishing with Matt, he broke one after like a weekend of hard fishing it. So I know, after you catch quite a few fish, spinner baits and these, the wires, but these get bit, but I'll be honest, I've got several of them, so I'm just going to keep using them and keep hating them and keep having to bend them to get them to even run close to true. And then as they break, I'll just weed them out. But I've been looking. You guys comment below right now, or when you get a chance, when you watch the video. What's your favorite buzzbaits? I'm looking at the what are the Megatron, Shadatron, whatever those ones are on Tackle Warehouse. That actually you can get the gold blade or a red blade or just a silver blade, but they don't really have enough colors. And do you know of anybody that makes a buzzbait just like this with a, gold or just a bluegill colored with the skirt? Because I'm still the old school dude. I like this type of buzzbait over no matter what the blade is, the ones that just have soft plastics. I still like the old skirted material and that blade. That blade, I think, has a lot of magical pulling power. It squeaks down here, and just how it's designed, that's the old school, like original design. The ones that are bent here, and then a lot of them bent on the same side, they don't really pass through right in the center of the blade. I don't like those as good. They'll all catch fish. I've used them all over the years. I've used the double-bladed ones, the plastic blades, the double-bladed plastic, the Strike King with all the, I don't know, almost looks like a scale pattern on it, and they've got those in the double. Like, I've tried all kinds of different ones, but I always keep going back to that style, the original, whatever. Remember being younger as a buzzbait, and you wanted to squeak. Like, it was just a common knowledge. You wanted, the longer you used it, and the more it wore, and like you were let down, like you were heartbroken, because that will finally wear out and get wallered out to where it won't work, and you're like, so you kind of wanted to have a couple of them broke in more or less kind of deal on the buzzbaits. I still like that. I just don't like these googans. They work though. They catch fish. One more thing about them, and then we'll move on to the other bait. So I'm not taking them out. Now, I may buy stuff. You guys seen, just like I did this year. I may buy stuff, put up against them, and if I feel they're, just as squeaky, but they just are easier to run true. Because the main thing with these buzzbaits are you want them to come right back at you, because even though you can get ones kind of like these are, you want to be able to go slow or fast, and you want it to track like this. If you start going faster and it starts wanting to lift, you don't have a good buzzbait. Now, sometimes you can pop it, like you can work it fast and slow, on the ones that aren't really that great. I think that may actually even add to, it changes the movement of the thing, and it may let it get hit. But overall, you just want a buzzbait just to come straight back at you, this running, down like that, and then you can, slow it down, speed it up or whatever. But usually it's just that constant, you'll find that right speed where this is making the most squeaky noise, just kind of like a whopper plopper. We're going to talk about those too, but these definitely work. So let's see what comments. Kale Fishing, Crocagator Buzzbait, or Picasso. Yeah, I got a Crocagator, but it's not a buzzbait. I got a Crocagator right here. Crocagator Jig that I kind of added some custom to. We'll talk about it in a minute. Or Picasso. Yeah, I'm going to look into a few different ones, because those, they kind of get annoying. Once I'll throw one and you'll catch like a fish, and then it takes you like 10 minutes to get it to go again like it was going the first time, which you had already had to. What I usually have to do with these is, right out of the box I had to do with them, is they all want to go and pull to their right, which will look like it's your left as it's coming at you. It's coming this way. And so if you go and twist that where the blade's aiming to the left, it helps, but you're kind of putting it in a bind, and it just doesn't work quite as well as when you get a good buzzbait that's brand new, everything's straight in line, and it will work better. But these do squeak. Them gold-bladed ones on the googans do have a very good squeak. So anyway, enough about buzzbaits. Comment as you watch these videos, or this video, on the buzzbait deal, because I am this year, the buzzbait for me has taken over where the whopper plopper for several years. I felt like I'd throw a whopper plopper or a popper, one of those two, or a frog in spots where I couldn't get a hit, and that was the deal. So this bait, I didn't even pull out my big bluegill one, because the last few weeks the whopper ploppers haven't been doing anything. So that bait didn't do anything on top water. I don't even think you guys are going to be able to see the fish catch because I thought I was recording and I wasn't. I think I showed the fish as I was getting it off. It wasn't that big, but I threw this frog out and instantly I caught a fish and I wasn't recording, but then nothing else after the frog. I threw it in a couple different gunky spots, but didn't throw it much, but nothing on topwater. So that was kind of all of our topwater deal. So then, and we'll talk about, if you guys want to stick around, all the baits that I've kind of tried and played with. And a couple of these caught fish, but then no more. But I'm telling you guys, if you guys remember right, I talked about this in a live stream. I brought the jabberjaw back out of retirement. I had kind of, once they kind of stopped making a bait for this channel. It's hard for me if I can push. But since I'm not sponsored, I don't have any, I'm not in cahoots with AliExpress, Tackle Warehouse, Bass Pro Shops, you name it, I'm not in cahoots with them. Why not be in cahoots with eBay, which I'm not in cahoots with. But so I may go back to not worrying about if a bait's discontinued or not, because you still can find them. But once I realized the jabberjaw was being discounted and sold off and they don't have it listed anywhere anymore, few very off-the-wall places still have it, and it's all over eBay. I've taken it out of circulation, had 4 of these, and this is my favorite color. It's really the only color I really, really like in the jabberjaw. But I brought them back out. Now, this is the deeper diving one, and it tells you right on it. So if you're ever wondering, well, how can you tell? First of all, if you can't tell by looking at the bill, but the deeper diving ones will tell you right on them. It's a jabberjaw 60, 7 to 9. A regular jabberjaw will just have 60 and nothing here, and it will definitely have a shorter bill. Like that bill is maybe not half as, but it's like right only to there. This is moved up a little bit. It's a different bill, and this is the one that was getting down to that right depth where I was just digging it through across the rocks, and man, it was game on. It caught a couple of our biggest fish, and it caught way more. Like you could just tell there was a bite going on with this bait. None of these other baits had that. A lot of them didn't even get hit. I know, not even my chatterbaits. Chatterbaits weren't chatterbaiting. I could not get I've tried several different ones. I just could not get in any sort of spot over in the grass to where I felt like I had a good bite going. There was a way better bite going on the deeper, rockier banks than there was in the shallower, grassier banks with this guy. Now, with rattle traps, there wasn't. I don't even know if I caught a fish or 2 on all the rattle traps I tried, but I caught a bunch of fish on this guy. So it was right around the time it was starting to rain, and you're thinking, well, it's maybe the front was coming in and what got them fired up, and you happen to be throwing that. But no, it continued on. So once I got to this point, Rocky Point, and I was like, this tells you how old I'm getting. I totally spaced off the fact that I put these back in my arsenal, and I'm like, man, I need something to run. I'm like, oh, it just hit me. I'm like, my jabberjaws I put back in the box. Thank God. So I pulled one out, started throwing it, and I want to say not the first cast, second cast, we caught a little one. Third cast, it was raining. I'm like putting on the emergency poncho, so I'm not trying to make an excuse, but I really wasn't ready for a big fish to hit. And I did my little left-armed hook set, and man, could have been biggest fish of the day, was at least close to probably 3-pounder. We lost it. I never saw it, but I felt like it was a way bigger fish than what we had been catching. We'd only caught one other one that was almost 3 earlier on the morning topwater bite. We were into the grind by now. So then I was like, okay, that point, then I'm like, well, I'm going back, and the wind had picked up by then. I'm like, I'm going to go back and hit the the rocky points and the steeper ones that I'd hit already once that morning that seemed like they weren't anything going on. And so I want to say maybe not every rocky point, but almost every point I went to, I at least caught one fish, and then we caught a couple very nice bass. So this bait right here, I'm telling you guys, if you've never used a jabberjaw, they're discontinued, but you don't go buy any of these. I'm bidding on some of these on eBay. Don't go to eBay right now. Give it a day. But go to eBay if you don't have any. But keep an eye out. If you run across an old jabberjaw, maybe you're at some sort of, flea market or whatever, and or you hear of anybody talking about like, hey, you got any old jabberjaws? This color, olive shad. Some guys I've heard talk about Tweety pie. I'm going to try to also pick up, I think it's called regurgitated shad. It's got a little more orange on the belly. But I want to get, I've got 2 of each. I got 2 deep divers and 2 shallow of this one, 2 to 4 foot, 7 to 9 foot olive shad. It's really all I need. But the minute I lose one, guess what? I'll feel like, oh, I don't have a backup. So I'm probably going to try to pick up 2 or 3 more of each in this color, just so I can go, okay, they're back in my arsenal, just like I do with the Booyah Hard Knocker, which is right here. Right? That's one of my favorite baits. He sucked yesterday, but there's times when they kick in. Because a lot of my favorite baits, they're not like, oh, it's a guaranteed fish every time you throw it, but it's almost guaranteed that when you start pulling these favorites in, on any given day, when they take off, man, they're like the bait. And you can go on a little spree and catch a lot of fish with them. And that color in the deep diver and the shallow diver, it could vary. It could just depend on the timing or whatever. You know, earlier spring, like when the fish are just up more. Now they're kind of, in my opinion, they're just a little, they're not going way back into coves. And when they are out on the points and edges, they will have a little period, but it's a shorter period when they're up super shallow. On the rockier banks, I think they're a little bit, you know, from that, instead of being up dirt shallow, they're in that, you know, could be 2 or 4 foot down to 6, 8, 10 foot kind of deal. The ones that are still kind of hanging out in a little bit shallower water during the day anyway. So anyway, that bait right there, it's a winner. The old black-eyed olive shad jabberjaw from 13 Fishing that I mentioned it in the video when I was out fishing. I'm wondering if old Wheeler still has these, because I know I've watched him in several videos talking about them. And you can. This one's, they probably do get worn out to a point up in here. Maybe, I don't know. But you can tweak these blades. I don't recommend it, because then trying to get it back, I think they're awesome right out of the box. But Wheeler talked about it in several videos about getting it to run a little deeper or a little shallower by tweaking these blades. I don't recommend, I just recommend fishing the deeper ones when you need to be in that, you know, like a roughly wiggle wartish type area, that 7 to 9. This would play with the firetail crawls like we've had, the wiggle wart, the rock crawlers, that kind of stuff, the shallower ones, that just 7 to 9. Then if you're going 10, 12 or whatever, then you may want to get away from these more square billy type deal, want to go with an actual deep diving deal. But when I tried to do, I may even have some of them still. Let's take a deep dive real quick. So there's probably some in here. Yeah, there are. Right there's one. So I tried to find other alternatives to this, right? Which I had some of the rock crawlers, but man, they just want a little bit of money for those. They're not horrible. I tried these Strike King ones, if you guys can see those. Those are like that deeper bill. Those, in my opinion, this, like I got hung a few times yesterday like it'll stick, but usually if you shake it or you just give it a second, it'll come off. And I think the big fish of the day for this bait anyway came when it hung on a rock. I let it, you know, I just gave it time and then kind of wiggle it, and it came free. And I don't know if I made it another foot or two, and doing, I had the big one of the day for this guy on that. When I was throwing the Strike King deal there, I felt this thing just, I've had 3 or 4 colors in there somewhere. I felt they hit and stuck, and man, that thing just stuck in rocks. Like I feel, I don't know if it's because of the metal blade, it's a little wider. I feel this bait right here, most of the rocky places I fish anyway, it'll get down there. You can kind of almost grind it across the rocks without fear of sticking it as much. Let me see if I got any more of those. So anyway, that's just my take. Let's move on. The jabberjaw is back in. I'm probably even going to take, let me just talk about it real quick. I'm probably going to even take some of these guys and put them back in the mix. You can't get this one, and this one's definitely hard to find. If you guys remember right, the old Dig It, right? It was a Cabela's Fisherman series. Can't get them anymore, but that color, that bass color, man, you talk about tickling that or just getting it through grassy stuff. It's like a finessey way to catch them when a lot of other baits aren't kicked in. And I'm thinking about pulling those back out and just use them until I'm out of them, because I do have, I don't know. I just don't know to recommend you guys where you would find some. You would want to look for 6 cents or somebody that makes a little, you know, very little dinky square bill like that, because this bait, you know, when they're in that little deeper on rocks, but when they're like up in and around gunky stuff, I felt with this Dig It, you could it'll kind of get through some grass, but you can also just creep it down to where it tickles the grass and then let up. It kind of is a high floating one. And I guess gets pretty deep for as little as it is. But they're awesome baits that I'm probably going to pull back in my lineup. Just like I like the Booyah Hard Knockers in the Toledo Gold and their Zombie color and a few other colors. This dude, wherever he's at. This color's done pretty good, but there's just times when a rattle trap bite's on or off and a crankbait bite's on or off, you know, that kind of deal. So anyway, the baits that I'm going to talk about just because I'm sitting here looking at it. What's up, Frank? Oh my God. Hang on. The newer wiggleworts, I've never found any that I like. I thought I liked that color. Every time I throw that bait, it never gets bit. I haven't thrown it a ton, but and I had a few other ones, and just even the OG wiggleworts, I've still got one floating around here, like a crawdad color. I don't know what the whole big deal was with the true wigglewort. I'm not as big a fan. I feel that this bait has fired up way more times than any of the times I've ever thrown a wigglewort when I'm thinking, you know, they should be on that kind of bite. That firetail craw in the peanut butter and jelly color one, the one I lost, the bigger one, which is probably the size of this, it kind of started to kick in that day. A couple different times we used it, but honestly, this has always done better for me. Now, Charles has had a little better luck with that. So anyway, you guys heard me talk about I was going to start jacking around with a few different worms, right? Throwing them or whatever. I tried this one, a wobblehead. I was getting ready to rig it up on a whatever, but they just weren't on a soft plastic bite as good. So I also broke into, I guess I left it on the rod. Oh, it's still on the rod. So I just briefly tried it, our little candy June bug color. Tried it then, but this one actually was sort of working, but I felt like there was just as easily a better bite, like on in the morning with the buzzbait, and then the jabberjaw over a soft plastic bite. So the soft plastic deal was a no-go, and then I don't even know if I'll leave the footage, but I went through a whole spiel about picking one of these out and threw it out and stuck on a tree limb, like right down by the water. And when I pulled it, I guess the tail had wrapped and doink, pulled it right off. So I'll talk about these real quick. Do they work? Do they not work? And I threw this one briefly on our. Now none of the chatterbaits were working that great, but I started out the morning throwing that Komodo Junior in that lighter orange on one of these Screaming Thunder crickets, and man, it never even got bit. So, but earlier on in the spring I'd done fairly decent with those, so I'm not giving up on them, but they weren't really working. I even resorted to this deal. Screaming Thunder cricket with that good colored deal, and I did catch one towards the end, you'll see in the video, but this dude was just not on it. None of the tried that guy thinking that, well, maybe they want some white, right? If they're going to hit that. And this was after. It was like, man, if they're tearing up that jabberjaw, let me rig this up in the grass. You know, if that's on the rocks, let me throw this into the grass. Maybe that color. No, it wasn't doing nothing. Our color that had worked the week before also, and you can tell he's getting beat up more now, and a ½ ounce through him with that little bit. Oh, he's already hung up again. That's one of the downsides about the Komodos, just like you saw there. And a few of you guys commented right off the bat. You're like, oh no, those things are like horrible about getting you know, you cast out and it sticks. You know, it just manages to go right over the hook and you're hooked. Now, why Komodo? Why Big Bite Baits and that Kamikaze Swim On still leave those in there? I don't know, but they would be better off to just fill those holes up. In my opinion, I think just the way it kind of undulates, I don't think the holes really are doing anything. But I even went to that bait, my old school black and blue gold blade with that blue sapphire, baby rage menace, nothing. I'm telling you guys, I went through the chatterbaits. I even resorted to the bigger full size. You can tell he's starting to get beat up. That's one thing, man. Evos look awesome, but unfortunately for us, the better they look out of the package, the minute you start abusing them, you're like, oh my God, my awesome looking bait is getting destroyed just by fishing it, right? It's like I'm just throwing it in and around, you know, rocks and grass, and yeah, chatterbaits will get destroyed, just like the screaming thunder crickets. He's got the whole face just sanded off, the blade sanded off. Mainly just by throwing it through the grass and what, you know, occasional bounce off of a dock. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And I even tried our newer one. I'd put a new skirt with that on. None of those. So before I jump off the soft plastic bandwagon, let me talk about the epic failure for me anyway. This googan, now that's the junior. Bandito Bug Junior and that Alabama craw. I never even got a hit on it. Never, like, not even a hit. I don't even know. I thought it was horrible. This bait, I've talked about it before. Cheap baits from Rogers. It got one hit, and you see what happened to it. That's why I'm like, I ain't buying no more of those. So throw that one away. It's toast. Even went to this thing. That first day I did a test with the bluegill colors, that exact setup right there was tearing them up at a different place. It never even got hit yesterday. And I better watch putting these close to the Elastec. Let me keep the Elastec stuff off. So let's get through the chatterbaits. I didn't really give this one enough time, but to try both colors of the half-ounce Evo Elites we'd picked up, I think I just put a orange one on that. I tried it briefly, no go. I tried our, you know, just to get that chartreusey white color out, almost close to like a Beehite Delight. Tried it for a little bit, nothing. Even though the bite was totally sucking on chatterbaits, it was basically still that. That color did better than all that other stuff, and I managed a few on it. But I literally, as I was going, as the day progressed, I went away from all that. Even though it looks like I threw way more of those than I did, I still spent more time fishing that one bait than I did probably all these combined. Definitely this one bait with all these other hard baits. So I brought this dude out to try it. I'm like, okay, we're in the grass. They're not hitting thunder crickets as good. This bait is supposed to be kind of one of those. It's the one from 6 cents, so not the Strike King one, but you know, it's supposed to be that kind of thing, right? No, that bait. I think I'm gonna just take it out of my. I'm thinking about just not even messing with it, because where that would work, actually, I think a chatterbait will work way better than that bait will work, in my opinion. So let's talk about the one and only jig. Since I only threw one jig, can you guys believe that? I threw all those chatterbaits and I threw some of this hard baits. I only managed to throw one jig, and it got hit. I don't know if it was the first cast. But a few cast in, it like doink. Okay, that's one of my favorite ones, right? That Crocogator with those skirts I added, peanut butter and jelly, green pumpkin, purple and gold. That's, I believe that's the full size, just Rage Menace. And this bait does work. And I was throwing it basically where I was throwing, you know, in the rocky type stuff. I was also tossing this out there, just kind of pulling it around. But they were on that. They were fired up on a more of a even moving than a soft plastic or this kind of deal, in my opinion. So I think the weather had them a little fired up. I think just the fishing pressure and all the stuff, it was a certain thing they were hitting. Probably because I had torn them up the week before with this bait and a little bit on this bait. I could not get any sort of a, I tried those. I thought I had a white one. Did I not try a white rattle trap? Maybe not. I tried those rattle traps. It was no comparison. I think I mustered up, I think one of them, I can't remember which one now, one of those two. This bait here never gets hit. And these are more of a cold water, in my opinion. But there's times when they just will get on it fired up in the summertime. Like when that bait kicked in for me was on a summertime bite that they just fired up. They were eating crawdads, right? And it may be later summer, so we're not going to give up on those. They definitely have their time and place. I'm still more of a Booyah Hard Knocker fan over even the 6 cents Quake 70s or the Red Eye Shads from Strike King. Booyah Hard Knocker is still my favorite rattle traps, and probably all I'm going to continue. I think I'm done trying to jack around testing out rattle traps. Now Charles will tell you this bait. This right here is his favorite. That Quake 70 in that color and a couple other bluegill colors. He's had, I mean, and I've watched him catch the fish, so I would say, yeah, that would be my favorite bait. I don't think he's ever even owned a Booyah hard knocker. So he likes those. I've tried to put them up with my hard knockers, and I just always end up going back to the Booyah hard knockers. Same thing with the red eye shads. The way I fish them, maybe there's you know, where they fall down, but maybe I just never slow down enough to let them like have that fall. But the Booyah hard knockers, which they're the old Excaliburs, you guys can say they're not, but they are. And I got proof. There's proof. There's proof in the pudding. But I want to talk real quick about the swim-ons before I end the video. The Kamikaze swim-on is a bait that I had first talked about. I'm like, I don't know if I want to mess with them. But since I started melting my plastics basically back together and continue to using, like the one I just showed you that has the deals ripped off, that usually happens maybe once a trip with one of the colors that I'm using. I might lose one of these baits, you know, per trip. I don't know, maybe, I don't know if I've ever lost two of the baits, two of the tails on any given trip we've went out during the day. But for no more than they are, and as good as they get hit, if you put a Kamikaze swim on the back of your chatterbait in roughly the colors they're going for, you know, whether they're just in an orangish mood, a chartreusey mood, or a dark, you know, mood, could be black and blue. They've got a bunch of different colors. I feel it, just in my opinion, just like, you know, Robert Duvall in every movie he's ever been in, I feel it in my heart that these baits will help you get hit, that tail right there. So what you do is, after so many fish, it'll kind of get ripped to the point where it doesn't want to stay on right, but this is perfectly fine. That's when I'll take it off, don't throw it away, and then when you get home, this one doesn't have it because I actually took it off myself, but I'll still go ahead and melt it back before I use it again. This will, like, it usually rips down one way or the other is what happens with these first, and they just start, they lay weird. They won't hold up, you know, they don't set right. Take it off, take it home, melt it, you know, get it pinched back together, and go ahead and melt the front to where when you put them back on, it'll stay straight for however many, you know, times. Usually if a couple 2 to 5 fish, usually these need something done. Either take them off and redo them, or you've lost the tail. Could be on any given one. I had that one, I don't remember which one it is now. One of these lasted me like a long time, it seemed, more than the others. And they will start, once they get so old, you will see them start pulling and wearing out right there. But it takes a lot of fish actually before that part goes off, or one little dink, just the wrong, you know, the wrong dink, could be one hit, but it usually takes quite a while before they wear out. So I'm going to keep buying these. I like these. I think this is the best chatterbait trailer you can get. Now, if you look at them, they're totally different than how they come out of the package. So I guess since this one's right here, I'll show you real quick. For those of you, I might as well make this a full all-around talk about them. When you order these Kamikaze swim-ons or the craws, for whatever reason, they decided they needed to have, I'm going to try to do this without getting my hands all nasty. They decided to have this huge ribbing, right? Now, if you guys know me, as you follow the channel, my whole thing about chatterbaits is I think the more slim line, and let them, you know, even if they won't dance a lot, if they'll dance a little, or a 3/8 ounce in the Jackie Hammers or the Nobi ones, you want a real skinny trailer to let them keep doing that. If you just run those, you can do it. You can just slap those on just the way they are. They'll be a little longer, more likely to get the tails ripped off by a dink, and they will work. But for me, I cut off just past, so right there, cut the head off. I want more compact, so I'll chop that off right there, take all of these ribs off with my scissors, and then you end up with this. So I guess I'm going to try to take just one out to show you guys. So basically I'm going to put the ribbing where it matches up. So if you can see what I do, it doesn't seem like a lot, but this little, it'll make it a little smaller profile and let it go through the water better. If you are just bound determined, maybe you're on a, you know, using the big blade and you just want the bait to look and feel as big as it can, it will hinder how much it jumps. You can probably slap those right on your full-size chatterbaits, no problem. But I like, you guys know me, I tinker with all my baits usually. I'll trick, mess them around or whatever. Anyway, so then these, I still prefer these over, where'd that one go? So here's a smaller one. I do prefer to use the full-size one even on the little baits though. Now there's not a lot of difference there. That's a bad, let me just try to get that there. So there's not a huge difference there. But I feel these just that much smaller. I like the bigness of these once you slim them down. So when I was putting these on, did I not throw? Where's he at? Yeah, here he is. So when I took that mini max with the 1/2 ounce head, I like the bigger bait of that, but I cut it down. So you basically go use a full-size swim on and then take off the first 2 top ribs and then slender it up a little bit. And then when you put that on, your little mini maxes or, you know, your smaller chatterbaits, you still got that bigger tail, but you've condensed it down. It's not really, you know, much. It's just a little thicker than those. Now, if you're fishing the 1/4 ounce heads, you know, if you're really downsizing, really getting finessey, and you're fishing like the 1/4 ounce, maybe even a 3/8 mini max, and you want to get as little as possible, then you would want to go with the littler kamikaze swim on. But I still prefer the bigger ones, and then just cut down this to this on the regular chatterbaits, cut them a little bit shorter for the little mini maxes, and that's my favorite trailer for all my chatterbaits. So even over, well, I still have some of these, so I'm still going to use them, but I feel they last probably just as long as what these baby Rage Menace, and most of these I actually like the baby Rage Menace over the Rage Menace. I felt it like lets them dance around a little better. Still an excellent choice. Like if you're like, I'm sticking to Strike King stuff, Charlie, then yes. I recommend on a Thunder Crickets, throw your, whether the Rage Menace, the baby Rage Menace, a few different colors, that's probably your best bet, and those are excellent things. But with the Kamikaze swim-ons, which I even prefer over these Komodo Juniors, if you're looking for a consistent, you know, same look of your plastics, then you go with something like this, because the Komodo Juniors and the Komodos are probably the more consistent. The bait always comes out looking the same, just kind of like if you wanted the Alabama crawl, but like even with like these baits on through Zoom, you can get a whole pack and you'll have half of them just a little brighter looking than the other packs. And the thing about these swirl baits from Kamikaze, from Big Bite Baits, the Kamikazes that's the same color bait, but you'll end up with a few different flares of whatever. It's probably going to do the same thing, but they're definitely, you can buy a few packs and you'll have, you know, half of them you can definitely tell are brighter than the other half, and the others are more toned down, so then you can even fine tune your coloring like that if you chose. And then they got like the sweet potato pie, which is sort of on that, but you got a little more yellow into that. So like these would be good on that little black and yellow chatterbaits that I have, that I haven't even put that mixture together yet, but that kind of stuff. So I love these Kamikaze, the swim-ons, Kamikaze swim-ons. I love those as trailers. I've tried the Kamikaze crawl. I'm still up in the air whether I like that for like other. I definitely don't like them on a chatterbait, whether I like them on these jigs or not. I still like the idea of the jigs. I still like this on the back of a jig most of the time, or then some other kind of true crawl. But as far as just something to give it a little kick, I like these on jigs. Whether it's the baby Rage Menace, the full Rage Menace. That's baby Rage Menace there. So anyway, all right, I got to get ready. I got a birthday party to go to. Actually, 3 birthday parties. If you guys didn't know, I do have several grandkids, so they're having a birthday party for all three of them, the twins and Paisley. So Peyton and Norman and Paisley, all birthdays. I think, yeah, Paisley's 10 and the twins are 9 this year. I know, right? It's like, Charlie, how long ago did you have kids? You guys don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Oh, you do? Okay, fine. To make this video a full hour, no, we're not going down there. We're going to stick with fishing. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to get out of here and put some tape on this Band-Aid. I just covered this one up because I kept bumping it. I always, I'm using this finger to do stuff, and I kept bumping. There's a little cut right here. I did it all day fishing yesterday, only aggravated it more. So I'm like, today I'm going to put something on it so I can quit bumping it. So thanks for watching, guys. Get out and go bass and bonsai. Don't do it. Give me a couple days. Let me get my jabberjaws and then go on eBay and get you guys some of these jabberjaws if you don't have any, because you at least want to try them. If nothing else, get you, I'd recommend both. Olive shad, jabberjaw 60, and a jabberjaw 60 7 to 9 foot. And at least try it, because these baits do get bit. I promise you that. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching.